The U.S. military is working to recover a surveillance blimp. Officials say the blimp broke loose from its station in Maryland and is floating northeast of D.C. in Pennsylvania. We're told it's hovering at around 16,000 feet. Two F-16 jets have been ordered to monitor the blimp. NORAD and the FAA are also keeping an eye on the situation to keep other aircraft safe. Now, the agencies say they're working on a plan to wrangle the blimp safely back to ground. A local fire department in Maryland tweeted this out, saying the blimp has come off its tether. If you see it on the ground, call 911. That tweet included this photo of the blimp. There you see it. The fire department is also asking people to use caution should they spot it. The blimp is part of a multi-billion-dollar surveillance program that has been criticized for defective software and poor reliability. Attorney Thomas Neuberger is on the phone. He represents the neighbors of the Aberdeen Proving Ground who have been critical of the blimp program. Thanks for being with us, sir.
Glad to be here.
So explain to our viewers exactly the crux of the argument that people have against this blimp.
The blimp went up a couple days after Christmas. Anyone living on the Eastern Shore in Maryland was warned by the Maryland emergency management people that if the blimp broke loose and crashed, it was 90% certain to crash in Kent County, Maryland. The blimp is as large as a football field, and there are gases that could be fatal to first responders as well as the people living underneath the blimp when it came down on their house.
And so would they want the military to just scrap this program altogether?
We've been trying to get the military to agree not to fly it in high winds of 20 to 25 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour. High wind advisory, okay? And the military has refused and went on CBS months ago and said that it's absolutely safe and would never break free. The materials given to the Maryland emergency management people said that if it broke free, there were devices on it that it would be brought to the ground within 4 to 5 minutes. Obviously, those devices aren't working today as it floats towards the Mississippi.
Have you spoken to any of your clients, sir? It being clearly now that this blimp has broken free and is on the loose, I'm sure that they're feeling fairly justified in bringing this lawsuit.
Well, they feel justified, but they're concerned with wherever it's going to crash. The first responders, wherever it comes down, will not have been warned as to what to do, as were the first responders in Maryland. Okay, so this is a very dangerous device. In 2010, Raytheon's blimp in North Carolina also broke loose in a windstorm and crashed into another blimp, causing hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. So we've been warning about this and asking them not to fly it in bad weather to no avail, and now the chickens are coming home to roost.
Attorney Thomas Neuberger representing clients who are not happy that this blimp is flying around the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.
All right, let's get straight to Chip Reid, who joins us on the phone. Chip has covered this story before, and he joins me now. Chip, what are you learning?
Well, we're learning that Mr. Neuberger, who you just talked about, was concerned about this blimp coming down right in the neighborhood around there, but he was right in one sense in that it poses a danger to people on the ground, but wrong in another sense in that apparently people quite a ways away are now in danger of this thing coming down. We were told at the time we did this story last February, as he mentioned, it went up in the air just after Christmas. By the way, there was only one blimp up in the air when we did the story in February. But there are now two. One of them, I hope, is still tethered there, or perhaps they've brought it down. The other one is floating to who knows where. But one of the concerns all along has been that it could come down someplace where in a populated area. Obviously not the populated area that people had thought. It's a lot farther away than that.
Chip, we're actually showing some video of your story that you filed for CBS News. What else can you tell us about this blimp? I understand that it has this, what is called the J-LENS, the Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Netted Sensor System, which is a surveillance system for those of us who are not using acronyms that can be used to detect all sorts of things. What is this? Why is the military? Why does the military have such an expensive piece of equipment to do something that I'm guessing a lot of our other radar are already able to do?
Well, they actually say that because it's operating at such a high level, it can do a lot more than other radar can do. And there are lots of other reasons. They said that it was a very valuable asset that they couldn't even tell us about because it's a highly classified program. But the two blimps, one of the blimps was to detect incoming missiles or incoming planes. For example, they said perhaps from a Russian submarine off the Atlantic coast, or perhaps terrorists on a cargo ship shooting a missile toward the U.S. mainland. And the other blimp, the second blimp, and I don't know which of the blimps it is that is now on the run, but the second blimp was intended to target that cargo ship or Russian submarine to do the coordination of the targeting. So one was really defensive, one was really offensive, but they were not really in operation yet. This is the first year of a 3-year test to see if they do work. And the hope was that by 3 years after they went up, they would be actively monitoring the Atlantic coast all the way from Boston to, I believe, down in the Carolinas or even Georgia, 340-mile range, I believe it is, and perhaps even more than that. But the Pentagon argued very forcefully that this is really a very important item in the defense of the east coast of the United States. It's similar to blimps that have been used to spy on the situation in Afghanistan and also on the Mexican border. And in fact, one of the biggest concerns has not been that it would come down and hurt people. It's been that it would spy on Americans. There were interest groups that we talked to when we did the story back in February that were deeply concerned that it was going to be keeping track of people in their daily routines and identifying people's cars and basically spying. That was at a time when people were very concerned about government spying. It's an issue that's faded a bit right now, but back then that was the big issue. The secondary issue was the danger of it coming down in a populated area, but obviously that is the big story right now.
Yeah, in fact, Chip, the Defense Secretary Ash Carter has said that they will get the blimp down. He says that it has a remote control deflate capability, but we're not sure at this point if that is working. We also have some video that we want to show our viewers of people that are posting these pictures and videos to social media. That looks like the blimp, and according to the person who posted this video, this blimp has been, or at least took out a couple of power lines. Chip, you got an up-close and personal look at the blimp. So what are the materials made out of, the exterior? I mean, are they hard to the touch when it's completely inflated, and when it's deflated, they would be soft to the touch?
Yeah, it is. There is some very hard material on it. I don't remember exactly what it is made out of, but it is a very hard, very thick, rubber-like material. And it has a very long cable that goes up to, can be 2 miles long. It's just barely an inch thick, but it's either steel or Kevlar, whatever it is. It's heavy, and it could certainly do some damage. And there's a lot of heavy equipment in there, too. That is all the equipment they used for all the radar equipment and the other devices, cameras, whatever else they have on there to detect any incoming missiles and to coordinate any kind of response against any kind of offensive attack on the East Coast. So there's a lot of stuff there. I mean, if they take all the helium out of that thing and it comes down, it's going to weigh a lot. And it really could present a real danger to the people wherever it is going to come down.
You know, it's pretty remarkable, Chip, that something like this could get away from the military because from what we can tell and from the pictures that we're seeing, it doesn't look like it would just all of a sudden ascend so quickly that they wouldn't be able to get control of it before it got away from them. So I guess a lot of people are going to be wondering what kind of command and control capabilities the soldiers on the ground have for this thing, and how fast does it elevate when it's on its way up into the air, and why weren't they able to bring it down once they saw that there was probably an issue?
That is a big mystery because now they would not go into great detail about what the mechanism was for bringing it down if it did become untethered, but we were told it would survive hurricane-force winds, and they were very certain about that. Obviously, there have not been hurricane-force winds in this area. Another interesting point is that we were told that it would fly to a maximum of 10,000 feet because that's about how long the cable is, about 2,000 miles. But the last report I saw said that it was at 16,000 feet. So it is, if that is correct, it has gained quite a bit of altitude and could end up going quite a distance here. and certainly they don't want to bring it down in an area where there are large populations of people. So it's possible they're just going to wait for it to keep going until it's perhaps out of over the ocean or someplace else where it won't do any serious damage when it comes down.
Yeah, because certainly trying to shoot something this size down, even if the materials, even if it's something that is not, as hard as an aircraft, as an airplane exterior, certainly could, as you point out, Chip, cause some serious damage. And I guess the question now, a lot of people are going to be wondering why the Pentagon, the government, has requested to fund a project like this. This is, according to some reports, more than $2 billion worth of equipment and technology on this aircraft. And what kind of control and command and capability they have over it.
Yeah, well, this is certainly going to set the program back a bit. I suspect that this 3-year trial period is going to be longer than a 3-year period. And one other interesting point, I asked them at the time when I was there earlier this year in February, I said, do you worry about somebody coming out here, because they bring it down and send it back up periodically, or now they have these 2 blimps, and to inspect it, to work on the systems, to do whatever they're doing to test it over this 3-year testing period. And I said, well, do you worry when it comes down closer to Earth that somebody could be on the perimeter of the Army base and take a shot at it with a high-powered rifle? And they said, well, it is designed to take a shot from a high-powered rifle. You can shoot this thing. They said you can even shoot it more than once, and it would have very little effect on it. It basically self-seals. So it's going to be hard to bring this thing down. I mean, it's not as though, maybe they could shoot it with a missile, but they would have to do that someplace where it's not going to come down and endanger people's lives.
Yeah, it sounds, Chip Reid, you've got some really fascinating insights into this. Chip, just tell us so are you headed to Fort Aberdeen Proving Grounds to talk to the military, or are you trying to chase this thing down and figure out where it lands?
My initial marching orders were to chase the balloon, chase the balloon. Then I got a call back as I started, and I was stuck in traffic on the Beltway, and they said, forget about chasing it. It's already way over Pennsylvania and moving at a pretty brisk pace. Who knows where it's going to go? For you to be in place for the evening news tonight, just go to Aberdeen. So I'm going to go up there, and if the other blimp is still up in the air, perhaps we'll get a shot of that one. My guess is they brought it down. The last thing they want is people taking pictures of it while this crisis is going on. And also, the really last thing they want is for a second blimp to get away. So we will get as close to the site where the balloon is actually tethered, the blimp is actually tethered, or the J-lens blimp, as they call it, or the aerostat is actually the correct name for it. It is an aerostat, not a blimp technically. But we will try to get as close to it as we can, but it is a very secure area. So I suspect we're not going to be able to get right up close like we were back in February when we were literally directly underneath it as it came down. I mean, I actually could touch it when they brought it down, and then they sent it back up again.
Chip, while we've been talking and you've been reporting, I just want to let you know that Edward Snowden is listening to you and me, watching CBSN. He just tweeted out this picture. It's a screen grab, essentially, of our coverage of this missing blimp. Chip has no comment.
Well,
Astounded.
Well, actually, that brings up what I was talking about earlier, that the time I did this story, the bigger concern was that this blimp was going to be out there spying on people, and the Army swore up and down every way possible that there were not going to be cameras capable of spying on people on this blimp or on these blimps, and they were very emphatic about it. There were a lot of people who did not believe it. I interviewed a lawyer at a local public interest group, that's a privacy-centered group, that said they just don't believe the Army. They believe the Army will use it to spy on people. But I think, and for the long run, certainly there are a lot of people who are still concerned about that. But right now, the bigger concern is getting it down safely, of course.
Yeah, Yeah, in fact, Chip, in all seriousness, Mr. Snowden tweeted, when he tweeted that picture, he said, apparent second confirmation that mass surveillance leads to unauthorized travel. And those are some of the very serious concerns that American citizens have about the capabilities of our government to conduct surveillance.
That's right. And, this was back in February was a time when people were really up in arms about this issue. It's faded a bit, certainly not in the eyes of Mr. Snowden, but it's not, in the news every day like it was back then. But perhaps it will be again as a result of the attention being drawn to these blimps and the general issue of spying on Americans.
Chip Reid reporting. We're going to look forward to your piece tonight on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley. Chip, thank you so much for talking with us.
All right. Thank you.